Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes life feels like a long road where you are walking without a map, without a guide, and without any idea of where this path will finally take you. And in moments like these, you often ask yourself, what is my purpose? What is my real task in this life? The truth is, you don't need to find all the answers in one day. You just need the courage to take one honest step toward yourself. Finding your life tasks is not about chasing what everyone else is doing. It is not about copying someone's journey or living someone's dream. It is about listening to the quiet voice inside you, the voice that speaks when the world finally becomes silent. That voice tells you what makes you feel alive, what gives you energy, and what brings meaning to your days. And when you follow that voice, you begin to understand who you truly are. Listening to your inner voice is one of the most powerful decisions you will ever make, yet it is also one of the hardest. In a world filled with noise, opinions, and expectations, that quiet voice inside you often gets buried beneath pressure and comparison. But the truth is, your inner voice is the only guide that truly knows who you are, what you need, and where your life is trying to lead you. It is gentle, but it is honest. It is soft, but it is stubborn. It keeps speaking even when you ignore it, even when you convince yourself to follow a path that does not belong to you. And when you finally pause long enough to listen, something inside you shifts, something becomes clearer. Something begins to make sense in a way it never did before. Your inner voice speaks in feelings, not in loud statements. It speaks through discomfort when you are walking the wrong road, and through peace when you step into something meant for you. Sometimes it whispers through the things that drain you, the things that no longer fit who you are becoming. Other times it speaks through the spark of excitement you feel towards something small, something simple, something that others may not even understand. It may tell you to leave a place where you no longer grow, or it may urge you to stay patient a little longer because something inside you still needs time to develop. This voice does not rush you, it does not confuse you, it does not mislead you. It simply guides you back to yourself. But listening to your inner voice requires courage. It asks you to step away from noise, to detach from the approval of others, to choose honesty over comfort. Most people hear their inner voice but silence it because it demands change, and change often feels frightening. You may stay in a situation that feels heavy simply because it is familiar. You may follow a dream that isn't yours because it looks impressive from the outside. You may pretend to be someone you are not because you want to belong somewhere, even if that place does not match your truth. Your inner voice becomes quieter with every compromise, but it never disappears. It waits for the moment you are ready to return home to yourself. Listening to your inner voice also means giving yourself permission to slow down. The answers you are looking for will not always come instantly. Some truths take time to reveal themselves. You may need to disconnect from the outside world, sit alone, breathe, and ask yourself what you truly want. Not what society wants, not what your friends expect, not what looks glamorous. What you want, what makes your heart feel lighter, what feels meaningful even when no one else sees value in it. And when you hear that answer, even slightly, you must treat it with respect. You must trust that this small whisper holds more truth than the loudest opinions around you. Your inner voice will guide you toward people who nourish you and away from those who drain you. It will push you toward work that brings out your creativity instead of work that suffocates your spirit. It will tell you when to let go, when to try again, when to stay disciplined, and when to rest. The more you listen, the clearer it becomes. The clearer it becomes, the stronger you feel. And the stronger you feel, the more your life begins to align with the person you were always meant to be. Don't compare your journey, because comparison is the silent thief that wipes away your peace, your confidence, and your sense of direction without making a sound. It makes you look at someone else's story and forget the value of your own. It forces you to measure your life with a scale that was never designed for you. When you compare, you don't see the truth. You only see the highlights, the polished moments, the outcomes people choose to show. You do not see their failures, their sleepless nights, their fears, their sacrifices, or the storms they had to walk through. Yet somehow you convince yourself that their path is easier, their progress is faster, their success is more special than yours. This mindset does nothing but weaken your focus, distract your heart, and pull you away from your real purpose. Every person is walking a timeline shaped by their own experiences, lessons, struggles, and strengths. No two people have the same background, the same opportunities, the same pain, the same resilience, or the same responsibilities. So how can two journeys ever be compared? The truth is, you are not late, you are not behind, and you are not failing simply because someone reached a milestone before you. They have their story, and you have yours. And your story is being written with moments that are meant to teach you something unique, something essential for your growth, something that would not have been learned if your life was moving at someone else's speed. When you compare yourself with others, you unconsciously insult your own hard work. You make your progress look small, even though it took courage, patience, and discipline for you to achieve it. Every step you take, no matter how slow or imperfect, is proof that you are moving forward, but comparison blinds you. It makes you ignore how far you've come because your eyes are too busy watching how far someone else has gone. You start believing that your efforts don't matter, that your pace is wrong, that your dreams are unrealistic. And slowly you lose your connection with the truth of who you are. Comparison also destroys gratitude. It shifts your focus from what you already have to what you think you lack. You begin to overlook your blessings, your talents, your small victories, and the moments that once made you proud. Gratitude turns into dissatisfaction, and satisfaction is the foundation of inner peace. When that foundation breaks, insecurity takes over. You begin to chase validation instead of purpose, trying to prove yourself instead of becoming yourself, competing with others instead of understanding your own direction. This is how people lose themselves, not because they are weak, but because they are distracted by things that were never meant to guide their lives. The journey you are on is specifically designed for your growth. The challenges you face are preparing you for something that belongs to you alone. The delays you experience are protecting you from things you are not ready for yet. The pace of your progress is shaping you in ways that will matter later, even if you don't understand it right now. When you stop comparing and start focusing, you begin to notice your own rhythm. You start appreciating the unique way life unfolds for you. You begin to see that every moment, even the ones that feel slow or uncertain, is part of a process that will eventually lead you exactly where you need to be. When you let go of comparison, you free yourself from pressure that was never yours. You give your mind space to think, your heart space to feel, and your soul space to grow. You start valuing your own story, your own timeline, your own progress, and your own truth. And slowly, you learn to trust that your journey, with all its twists and pauses, is not behind anyone else's path. It is simply different, and different does not mean less. Learn from your struggles, because the moments that challenge you the most are often the moments that teach you who you really are. Struggles have a way of opening your eyes to truths you would never notice during comfortable days. When life becomes difficult, when plans fall apart, when people disappoint you, and when everything feels heavier than your strength, that is when you discover parts of yourself you never knew existed. Pain forces you to look inward, to question your choices, to understand your limits, and to recognize your hidden strengths. It breaks down your assumptions and rebuilds your character piece by piece. Every struggle carries a lesson, not because life wants to hurt you, but because life wants to prepare you for the weight of the future you are meant to carry. Struggles show you what is worth holding on to and what you need to let go. Sometimes you stay too long in places where you don't belong simply because they are familiar. You stay around people who drain your spirit because you fear loneliness. You hold on to old habits because changing them feels uncomfortable. But when life becomes difficult, it pushes you to question everything you've accepted as normal. A struggle can make you realize that some relationships have expired, that some habits are destroying your potential, or that some dreams require you to level up your discipline. Without struggle, you would never feel the urgency to grow, to change, and to demand more from yourself. Struggle becomes the wake-up call you didn't know you needed. Your struggles also teach you resilience, a form of inner power that cannot be learned from books or advice. Resilience is built through surviving moments that should have broken you but didn't. It comes from standing up after every fall, even when no one is watching. It grows when you choose hope over fear, even when the path ahead seems unclear. Every time you face a challenge and keep moving, your resilience strengthens. You learn that you can endure more than you thought, that you can reinvent yourself after every setback, and that you have a capacity for strength far beyond your imagination. This resilience becomes a shield you carry for the rest of your life. Struggles also deepen your understanding of yourself. When life tests you, it reveals your real priorities, your real passions, and the things you truly care about. You begin to see what motivates you and what drains you. You understand which dreams are genuine and which ones were influenced by others. You discover that some of your fears are illusions, created only to hold you back. The more challenges you face, the more you learn about your emotional patterns, your decision-making, your strengths and your weaknesses. This self-awareness becomes one of your greatest tools for growth. Because you cannot fix what you do not understand, and you cannot change what you refuse to face. Struggles shape your character and soften your heart. When you experience pain, you become more understanding of others. When you go through loss, you appreciate presence. When you face disappointment, you learn the value of loyalty. When life pushes you down, you learn to stand with humility instead of arrogance. Struggles teach empathy because they remind you that everyone carries battles you cannot see. They make you wiser, more patient, and more grounded. They remove pride and replace it with maturity. They take away illusions and replace them with truth. In every struggle, there is an opportunity hidden quietly behind the pain. It might be the opportunity to start fresh, to walk in a better direction, to step into a version of yourself that you've been avoiding, or to rise into a strength you never practiced before. Struggles are not roadblocks, they are turning points. They redirect you, refine you, and remind you that growth never comes from comfort. Every lesson wrapped inside a struggle is shaping you into someone capable of handling the life you once prayed for. Follow what gives you energy, because the things that light you up from within are not random. They are signs, gentle signals showing you the direction where your growth, your passion, and your purpose live. There are certain activities, places, and ideas that make you feel alive the moment you step into them. You feel your mind waking up, your creativity opening, your heart becoming lighter, and your spirit standing taller. This natural energy is not something you can fake, and it is not something you can force. It comes from a deep alignment between who you are and what you are meant to do. When something gives you energy instead of taking it away, it is worth paying attention to, because it is trying to tell you something important about your path. You notice this energy in the small things first. Maybe you feel it when you create something, when you teach, when you design, when you solve problems, when you help others, or when you build something from zero. Maybe you feel it when you speak, when you write, when you learn new ideas, or when you use your hands to bring something into existence. Whatever it is, it leaves you feeling fulfilled, refreshed, and more connected to yourself. You don't feel drained after doing it. Instead, you feel stronger. You don't feel bored. Instead, you feel challenged in a good way. And most importantly, you don't feel like you are forcing yourself. This is the kind of energy that can guide your entire life if you let it. But following what gives you energy also requires honesty. Many times, you convince yourself to pursue things that look impressive but feel heavy. You choose paths because they promise quick results, not because they bring joy. You follow opportunities that others glorify, even when they don't connect with your truth. Over time, this creates frustration, burnout, and confusion, because you are trying to fit into a mold that was never meant for you. When you ignore what energizes you, you lose the natural spark that makes working hard feel meaningful. You begin to chase approval instead of passion, and that disconnect slowly eats away at your motivation. Being honest about what truly excites you helps you avoid this trap. Energy is one of the purest indicators of alignment. The things meant for you will not always be easy, but they will always feel right. They will challenge you, but in a way that pulls you forward instead of pushing you down. They will require effort, but you will not resent the effort. You will feel growth instead of exhaustion, hope instead of heaviness, and curiosity instead of boredom. Even when you face difficulties, you will still feel connected to the process. That connection is proof that you are working in the right direction. Success becomes more achievable when you align with what gives you energy, because you naturally stay consistent, focused, and disciplined. Following what energizes you also helps you identify what drains you. There are jobs, environments, conversations, and habits that leave you feeling empty, frustrated, or mentally tired. These are signs that something is out of alignment. When your energy drops every time you do something, it means that task is not feeding your spirit. You may still need to do some of these things for survival or responsibility, but long-term, they cannot be the foundation of your life. Your path should be built around activities that support your emotional and mental strength, not ones that weaken it. When you choose energy-giving paths, you naturally attract clarity. You begin to understand which opportunities to chase and which ones to walk away from. You stop wasting years on things that do not feel right. You develop a stronger relationship with yourself because you finally trust your own inner signals. You move with a different confidence because your energy becomes your compass. You start shaping a life that feels authentic, meaningful, and sustainable. And slowly, everything you do starts to align with the person you were always meant to become. Start with small steps, because greatness is never built in one moment. It is built through countless tiny decisions that slowly shape your future. Most people wait for the perfect time, the perfect plan, or the perfect level of confidence before they begin, but life does not reward perfection, it rewards consistency. A small step may look insignificant, it may look too slow, too simple, or too ordinary, but it carries the power to change everything when repeated with intention. Small steps are easier to start, easier to maintain, and easier to build upon. When you focus on doing one small thing every day, you quietly create a momentum that becomes unstoppable over time. What feels small today becomes powerful tomorrow. Small steps save you from the pressure that usually kills motivation. When you set goals that are too big, your mind becomes overwhelmed, your heart becomes anxious, and you often end up doing nothing because the distance between where you are and where you want to be feels impossible. But when you break that big dream into small actions, everything becomes manageable. You no longer feel scared of the journey. You feel in control. You begin to trust yourself because you are moving forward in a pace your mind can handle. And once you start, you realize that the hardest part was never the task itself. It was the fear of beginning. Taking small steps is also an act of humility. It means accepting that real change takes time. It means staying patient when progress is slow. It means letting go of the ego that wants immediate results and choosing instead the discipline that creates lasting results. Small steps teach you to value the process, not just the outcome. They teach you to celebrate small wins, appreciate gradual improvement, and respect the journey you are on. When you learn to honor the little things, you start building a mindset that can achieve big things. Small steps are powerful because they compound. One day of effort may not look like much, but 100 days of effort change your entire life. Each small action you take adds to your confidence, your skills, your habits, and your discipline. Over time, these small actions stack together, quietly forming the foundation of your success. The people who achieve remarkable things are not the ones who do everything perfectly. They are the ones who show up consistently, even on the days they feel tired, even on the days they are not motivated, even on the days when life feels heavy. They rely on small, steady progress instead of rare bursts of motivation. Starting with small steps also protects you from quitting. When the journey feels too big, quitting feels like the only option. But when the journey is broken down into tiny actions, quitting loses its power. You can do one small thing even on a bad day. You can make a small move forward even when you don't feel strong. You can keep going even when life feels uncertain, because your progress no longer depends on perfection. It depends on effort. And effort is something you can control. Small steps also help you build identity. Every time you take a small action, you reinforce a belief about yourself. When you read one page every day, you begin to see yourself as someone who learns. When you exercise for 10 minutes every day, you begin to see yourself as someone who values health. When you work on your craft for a few minutes daily, you begin to see yourself as someone who grows. These little identities eventually shape your entire lifestyle. They turn you into the kind of person who follows through, who stays disciplined, who evolves, and who keeps moving forward no matter how long the journey is. In the end, starting small allows you to begin without fear, continue without pressure, and grow without limits. Each small step you take becomes a silent promise you make to yourself, a promise that you are choosing progress over excuses, effort over fear, and direction over confusion. Turn pain into purpose, because every difficult moment you've survived carries a hidden strength that you can shape into something meaningful. Pain feels heavy, it feels unfair, and it can feel endless, but it is not useless. Inside every painful experience, there is a seed of transformation waiting for your attention. When life hurts you, it is not only trying to break you. Many times, it is trying to rebuild you into someone wiser, stronger, and more awake. Pain forces you to look at parts of your life that you have ignored for too long. It asks you to confront truths you avoided, to let go of things you were holding on to for comfort, and to step into a version of yourself that you were too afraid to become. That process is not easy, but it is powerful, and it is the birthplace of purpose. When you turn your pain into purpose, you take back your power. You refuse to let your experiences control you, define you, or limit you. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of life and start seeing yourself as someone who overcame, someone who learned, someone who grew. Pain becomes a starting point instead of an ending. It becomes a message instead of a punishment. It becomes a tool that helps you understand what matters to you, what motivates you, and what you want to build in your life. Many of the strongest people in the world did not find their purpose during their happiest days. They found it in the middle of heartbreak, loss, failure, or disappointment. Difficult experiences force them to become intentional, to search for meaning, and to create something valuable from what they endured. Pain also makes you more sensitive to the struggles of others. When you go through hard times, you begin to understand how heavy life can feel. You see how deeply people hurt behind closed doors. You recognize how challenging it is to keep going when everything inside you feels broken. This understanding makes you kinder, more patient, more empathetic. It helps you build connections that are real and meaningful. And often, your purpose is born from helping others heal from the very things you once suffered from. When you share your story, when you support someone who is hurting, when you offer strength to someone who is falling apart, your pain becomes useful. It becomes a bridge that connects your heart to others. Turning pain into purpose requires courage. It means facing your wounds instead of running from them. It means accepting what happened instead of pretending you are unaffected. It means allowing yourself to grow through discomfort. When you face your pain with honesty, you begin to see patterns, lessons, and directions hidden beneath the hurt. You start understanding why certain experiences came into your life and what they were trying to teach you. You realize that pain pushes you toward change that you might never choose voluntarily. It redirects you when you're stuck, it awakens you when you're asleep, and it strengthens you when you are fragile. Pain also clears your vision. It removes the illusions you once believed, the relationships that weren't real, the dreams that weren't yours, and the habits that were destroying your potential. Pain reveals what is authentic and what is temporary. In that clarity, you find the foundation on which you can build a purpose that truly aligns with your heart. You stop chasing what is shallow and start focusing on what is meaningful. You stop living for approval and start living for growth. You stop fearing change and start embracing transformation. When you turn pain into purpose, you transform the darkest chapters of your life into the most powerful ones. You learn that your suffering was not the end of your story. It was the moment your story started shifting towards something deeper. Your pain becomes a reminder of how far you've come, how much you've survived, and how capable you are of creating a life that carries meaning, strength, and truth. Trust your personal timing, because life is not a race, and your journey is not meant to look like anyone else's. Everything in your life has a rhythm, a pace, and a flow that is uniquely yours. Sometimes things move fast, sometimes they move slowly, and sometimes they pause completely, but every moment has a purpose. You may feel pressured when you see others reaching milestones before you. You may feel frustrated when your efforts don't bring quick results. You may feel lost when life seems to be moving for everyone except you. But the truth is, timing is not something you control with force. It is something you learn to trust with patience. Your path unfolds exactly when it is meant to, not when you compare it to someone else's schedule. Trusting your timing means understanding that delays are not failures. A delay can be a form of protection, preventing you from stepping into something you are not ready for yet. It can be preparation, giving you time to build the strength, the mindset, or the maturity you need. It can be direction, pushing you away from something that would harm you or pulling you towards something better. When you see a delay as a sign that life is aligning things for you behind the scenes, you stop feeling hopeless and start feeling grounded. You begin to understand that not everything happens immediately because not everything is meant for the version of you that exists right now. Your timing also depends on the lessons you need to learn. There are experiences you must go through before you step into the next stage of your life. There are habits you must break, fears you must overcome, and wisdom you must gain. Rushing through life often means skipping these lessons, and skipping lessons means repeating cycles. When you trust your timing, you allow yourself to grow at the pace life intended for you. You accept that every season has its purpose. Some seasons are meant for building, some for healing, some for learning, and some for rising. When you honor the season you are in, you move forward with clarity instead of confusion. Trusting your timing also requires letting go of comparison. You cannot measure your life by the progress of others because their timing is shaped by their experiences, not yours. What arrives early for them might arrive at the perfect moment for you. What looks easy for them might require years of preparation for you. The path that works for someone else may not be the path that helps you grow. When you stop comparing, you begin to notice how beautifully your life is unfolding in its own way. You see that your progress is real even if it looks different. You see that your journey is meaningful even if it takes longer. You see that your timing is guided by something deeper than speed. When you trust your timing, you become more patient with yourself. You stop judging your pace. You stop doubting your efforts. You stop forcing things to happen before their time. Instead, you focus on doing your best in the present moment. You show up, you grow, you try, and you let life open the doors when they are meant to open. This mindset frees you from anxiety and gives you space to enjoy the journey instead of constantly worrying about the destination. Your timing also reveals itself through intuition. Sometimes you feel a pull towards something new, even if it scares you. Sometimes you feel a push to leave something that no longer supports your growth. These inner signals are part of your timing. They show up when you are ready for change, even if you don't feel ready. Trusting your timing means trusting these signals, trusting your readiness, and trusting the process of stepping into the unknown. Growth never arrives early, and it never arrives late. It arrives exactly when you have the strength to carry it. When you trust your personal timing, you learn to walk with calmness instead of urgency. You learn to value progress over speed. You learn to respect the moments of pause and the moments of movement. And slowly, you realize that your life is unfolding exactly the way it needs to, at a pace that protects your peace, shapes your character, and prepares you for everything you once dreamed of becoming. Stay patient with your growth, because becoming the person you are meant to be takes time, effort, and emotional maturity. Growth does not happen in straight lines. It happens in waves. Some days you feel unstoppable, full of energy and clarity, ready to conquer everything in front of you. Other days you feel slow, confused, or stuck, as if nothing you do is working. This is normal. Growth is not supposed to feel easy every day. It stretches you, tests you, and shapes you in ways you do not always understand in the moment. Patience is what allows you to trust the process, even when you cannot see the results yet. Being patient with your growth means recognizing that you are allowed to be a work in progress. You are allowed to take time. You are allowed to learn slowly. You are allowed to make mistakes and rise again. You are allowed to have moments of doubt, fear, and uncertainty. None of these things mean you are failing. They mean you are human. Growth requires courage because you are stepping away from old habits, old mindsets, and old versions of yourself. It requires discipline because you are building new routines and new beliefs. It requires patience because change that lasts is always built over time, not overnight. When you lose patience, you often forget how far you have already come. You begin to feel frustrated with your pace. You start judging yourself harshly. You compare your journey with someone else's progress and convince yourself that you are behind. But when you remain patient, you create a space where you can appreciate your small wins, your improvements, and your consistent efforts. Patience keeps you grounded. It reminds you that real transformation happens quietly inside you long before it becomes visible outside. Patience also helps you avoid rushing into decisions that are not aligned with who you are becoming. When you try to speed up your growth, you may force yourself into paths that are not right for you. You may try to skip steps, ignore lessons, or push yourself beyond your emotional limits. This creates burnout and confusion. But when you move at a steady and genuine pace, you allow yourself to absorb every lesson deeply. You learn with clarity. You build with strength, you evolve with purpose. Growth that comes slowly is often the most stable and rooted. Being patient with your growth also means accepting that certain seasons of life are meant for waiting, healing, and observing. Not every season is about action. Sometimes life slows you down so you can rest or reflect. Sometimes you are being prepared for something bigger. Sometimes you are being protected from something you are not ready for yet. These pauses are not setbacks. They are hidden parts of your growth that strengthen your foundation. Without them, your future progress would not be sustainable. Patience teaches you emotional intelligence. It helps you manage your thoughts, calm your anxiety, and respond instead of reacting. It gives you time to understand your triggers, your patterns, and your inner world. When you become patient with yourself, you start becoming kinder to yourself. You stop expecting perfection and start appreciating effort. You stop criticizing your pace and start respecting your process. This kindness turns into confidence because you no longer see growth as a race. You see it as a lifelong journey. Staying patient with your growth also opens your mind to new possibilities. When you trust that you are evolving at the right pace, you allow yourself to explore, experiment, and take risks without fear of failure. You begin to see challenges as stepping stones instead of obstacles. You start welcoming mistakes as teachers instead of setbacks. You begin to understand that every experience, whether good or bad, is contributing to your evolution. Growth becomes something you enjoy instead of something you fear. When you remain patient, you develop a deeper connection with yourself. You learn to understand your needs, your boundaries, and your desires. You begin to hear your inner guidance more clearly because your mind is no longer rushing through life. Your confidence grows because you trust your path. Your strength grows because you stay consistent. Your identity grows because you give yourself permission to evolve naturally. Staying patient with your growth allows your life to unfold in a way that feels authentic, aligned, and sustainable. You learn to embrace your rhythm, honor your journey, and trust that every step, no matter how slow, is shaping you into the person you are meant to become.